Hey there guys, it's Saturday afternoon. We have got home from the farmer's market a few hours ago. We got ourselves some lunch and now we're gonna spend the afternoon working on a bunch of little projects I got around the farm. And so I thought I'd bring you along and show you what we're doing. Hopefully we can keep this dog out of the camera, but the first thing we gotta do is unload all the cars from all the stuff out of the cars from the farmer's market. So we're gonna do that first. Alright, so now I've got a couple things left in the truck that I bought in town, and so we're going to take those out to the barn, and I've got a couple little things to work on out there. So it's pretty stuffy up in this barn, and since I got the little chicks in here, I'm gonna go up and open the windows to get them a little fresh air. So yesterday I noticed that this area of the brooder was really damp. And all these chickens were piling up here in the corner, which kind of makes sense because they do like it kind of damp, but it was just too wet. So I was thinking something over here had to be leaking. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but the only thing I could find is this little piece here. There's kind of some water coming off of it. It feels pretty dry today, but I'm gonna go ahead and put some tape around here just to secure it, make sure it's not leaking anymore. If it gets too wet, you know, these birds really can't get wet. They'll get sick pretty easily. So I'm gonna try to fix this, and then I bought some extra pine shavings today, and we'll lay them down here and try to dry this spot out a little bit. So I keep all the water stored in this 5-gallon bucket, so I'm gonna dump it into here so I can save it, so I can disattach the hose without the water spilling everywhere. I'm gonna raise this up so I can work on it a little easier. Okay, this pipe just runs from the bucket to the pressure regulator. So I'm just going to unscrew this. There's some dirt and buildup here, so that might have been part of it. But I got some of this pipe tape. Just a simple plumber's tape for water lines. I'm just going to wrap the threads on here. Alright. Then I'll just reconnect my water line. Put my bucket up, fill my water, and fill my water bucket back up. I did buy some pine shavings to put in this corner, so I'm going to go and cut that open and just try to cover up some of the dampness so that they're pretty dry tonight. So the last thing I want to do in here is kind of clean up. I've got a lot of just trash and boxes and things I was using that I just haven't put away. So I'm going to try to get some trash loaded up in the truck and put everything away and sweep up a bit. Alright, so now we're down here at the broiler shelters, and I've got 2 or 3 different things I need to work on down here, so we're going to try to knock those out. The first thing I need to do is change out this latch. So you can see when I put this door in, it was actually flush, but then the wood dried and it warped, and so this latch doesn't actually close anymore. And so I've been using these zip ties and wire to try to hold it shut, and I've been doing that for a year. So I decided it's about time to switch this out and put something that will work a little better. Alright, well that looks like it's gonna work. For now, we'll see. I guess I'm a little worried an animal could go and pop that out, but I guess I could do that. That should work. I'll turn it a little bit. Alright, well we'll see. That'll have to do for now. I might go back and buy another latch like that other one, but I think it'll work. Alright, the next thing I gotta work on is the handle on these shelters is just a piece of wire that runs from end to end, and then I got an old piece of hose as the actual handle, but I pulled this the other day and the wire came off, so I'm gonna have to reattach the handle down here. Okay, so the next thing I have to do is going to be a little more time consuming, but on the bottom of these shelters between the wheels, I had attached some wire mesh and I attached it to the board, and it stuck out about 3 or 4 inches. And the idea is that if some kind of predator comes up to the cage and wants to dig under it, they wouldn't be able to dig right here. They'd walk up to it but couldn't dig because of the wire. Come here. Come on this side. Now most of the little predators, raccoons, possums, stuff like that, they're not going to realize that if they back off 3 inches and then start digging, they might be able to get under. So my issue with this has been when I pull the cages, I'm not really lifting the front end high enough, and this wire gets caught on the grass and it bends back inside the cage. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to disattach this wire, and I'm going to change the configuration of the wheels. Instead of having the wheels just slide on and off on these bolts, so instead of having the bolts face inward, I'm going to try to flip it around and have the bolts face outward. And then I'm going to lay my wire mesh on top of the boards instead of at the bottom. So we're going to see how that goes. So I need to take all this, I had screwed them in with these boards, so I'm going to take all these off, take the wire mesh off, and then lay a new piece of mesh on top of these and change the bolts around so they're sticking out. Alright, I'm going to take off this bolt. Alright, so now it's going to ride like this. That wire is going to be in the way, but it'll have to do. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but as you can see how I currently run the cages, the front end of this back cage lines up with the back end of this cage, and so if I have the bolt on this side, I'm not going to be able to match them up like this. So in the future, I'm going to have to do end to end. So I'm going to have to stop this cage when it gets here. So I'm going to have to go and move this cage actually so I can work on it. It's about 5 o'clock, and that's when I usually move my calves, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So the next thing we're going to do is lay the chicken mesh across the bottom. I had several different things. I had chicken wire and I had wire mesh, and I also have this green chicken netting. It's plastic, and I decided to go with this mainly because the problem I was having is when I pulled the cages, the metal mesh that I had here would fold under, and when the metal folds, it just creases and it doesn't bounce back. So this plastic, even if it does catch the grass and folds over, I mean, it's going to bounce back for the most part, or I could pull it out. So I'm going to go ahead and try this. I'm just going to staple it into the sides, staple it into the back, The other good thing about this material is that you can cut it real easily with scissors, so it doesn't take very much time. And it's a lot easier to work with. I don't have to worry about cutting my hands and stuff like that. So we're gonna try it out, see how it goes. Back sides are going to be a little more difficult because I got these panels on them, but we'll see what we can do. So I think overall it's going to work. You can see that on the leading edge is where the problems are going to be, and I think it's going to work out all right. I may have to make my handles a little bit longer so that my toes aren't underneath the mesh, because the mesh sticks out a little bit further than it used to. But I think going with the plastic is going to work out real good, because even if it does bend underneath there, I can just pop it back out. Whereas with the metal wire, once it's bent, it's really, you're not going to bend it back, and once you start trying to, it starts coming unwoven. So I think this is going to work. We'll see though. It'll probably be a couple months before I really know how it's going to work. I did want to say one thing about the sides. I don't run any kind of mesh along the sides, and that's basically because I really don't think if a predator's trying to get in right here, they wouldn't really try to do that, because right here they can't see the chicken, so they're only going to try to enter where they can see something. So they might try to get in here in the corner, but you know, on the back right now I got these panels just to keep some of the wind out, but those will come off in the next month or so when it starts getting hot. I'm going to try to get more airflow in there, so that's why it's important to have it on this side. But again, on the sides, if you got something covered, I really wouldn't bother putting something on the ground. The only time I would is if there's a big gap between the bottom of the cage and the ground, and in that case I just put a little piece of wood or something in there to fill it up for the night. Well, the sun's starting to go down a little bit, and I haven't eaten dinner yet, so I'm going to try to finish up these other cages and then get inside and make some dinner.